Jeez.
Yeah, why just
Oops. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
who's crossing?
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey?
Here.
Mr. Bateman?
Here.
Mr. Goodyear?
Here.
Mr. Hart?
Here.
Mr. Ori?
Here.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Here.
Mr. Ping?
All right, welcome everyone. With us tonight, we have our Assistant City Manager, Chris Weinich, Director of Finance, Mark Medler, Clerk of Council, Misty Clark, Dave Kennedy, our City Manager, City Solicitor, Joe Braun, Ott Huber, our Fire Chief, and our Captain, Dan Gangworm. Also, our Marketing Communications Coordinator, Krista Rose. He had me practice today. So that's how I got it. And many esteemed members of our police department we've got something going on here tonight. But we have our chaplain is here, so thank you for being here. Lieutenants Becker and Corbett are here. I'm not going to call you Lieutenant yet, Officer Wright, even though my guess is you probably already took your oath somewhere else.
No.
But no?
We waited till this.
All right, then you still are officer. And also Officer Spinelli and Sproul. So, and former council members Todd Osborne and Kent Blair. I think I got everyone. I hope so. So welcome everyone. I believe that this is the first thing, so I'll meet you over there.
Madam Mayor, City Manager, Assistant City Manager, Council, thank you very much for this opportunity. Today's a good day. Today we get to promote one of ours from patrol to the rank of lieutenant, which is our first line supervision. As with any organization, leadership is key, and especially in policing, that first line supervisor is imperative for the organization, especially in the operations. A little bit of background. Michael Wright has been with the Loveland Police Department for 3 years. He attained a master's in justice administration from the University of the Cumberlands and spent 4.5 years at the Pigeon Forge Police Department in Tennessee. Prior to that, he spent 2.5 years with the U.S. Department of State as diplomatic security officer. Michael also teaches college courses in criminal justice with the University of the Cumberlands in an online capacity. He lives east of Cincinnati with his wife, Dr. Shelby Wright, and his 4-month-old son, Archer. They enjoy hiking, running, cycling, kayaking, reading, cooking, traveling, and sports. Michael's background is primarily patrol work as a police officer, but he's experienced investigations, protective details, firearms instruction, bicycle patrol, Spanish translation, and community relations. In 2023, Officer Wright received the Clarence Sid Caesar Award from the Hamilton County Police Association and the Excellence in Service Award from the Claremont County Chamber of Commerce for his work in uncovering and investigating a gas skimmer fraud case with the United States Secret Service. That case resulted in federal conviction of 2 individuals who were responsible for a sizable financial loss to the citizens and businesses of Northern Kentucky, Greater Cincinnati, and Montgomery County, Ohio. On a personal note, soon-to-be Lieutenant Wright is a top-notch police officer. He understands both the law enforcement aspect and the community aspect. He has respect of command. He has respect of his co-workers. He has respect of the citizens and performs his job fantastically every day. I don't think we could probably hope for a better future lieutenant than Mr. Michael Wright.
We have had a little bit of a turnover in our lieutenant ranks this year, and but we're not losing anything. I think with top quality individuals, as your captain said, like you. I'm really proud to be able to administer this oath, and I think that we're all proud to have you promoted to the rank of lieutenant. You really are. You epitomize, I think, what we want in our officers and our lieutenants in this department, and we're proud to have you on this.
Thank you.
All right, you ready? I state your name.
I, Michael Wright,
solemnly swear that I will
solemnly swear that I will
support the Constitution of the United States,
support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances
and the Charter and ordinances
of the City of Loveland,
of the City of Loveland,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will obey the laws thereof,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and will faithfully discharge the duties
of lieutenant upon which I am about to enter.
of lieutenant upon which I'm about to enter.
There you go.
Happy your baby was excited for that.
You gotta go a little slower. They need a photo op. Turn that way. There you go. Yeah, all right. So you need to say a few words. You can have your lovely wife and your son with you if you want.
Well, I had every intent of letting Captain say the things that I had written, so I apologize that I prepared a speech. I would just like to say how thankful I am to be a part of a community that takes such pride in the law enforcement community. Allows us to operate effectively with the community in more ways than just what a lot of people would expect in an enforcement role. I'm really proud to partner with the community in a lot of different aspects, and I'm fortunate to continue to be a part of the community that takes such immense pride in partnering with our agency. I look forward to continuing and creating a safe environment for our citizens to prosper in this expanded leadership role. And I'm very excited to continue my career here in Loveland by partnering with all the homeowners, business owners, and all the people that make Loveland a wonderful place to live.
Very good.
Sir, can you guys say congratulations, Lieutenant? Oh, excuse me, you went back to your head. Congratulations. Lieutenant, glad you're here. Congratulations. Congratulations, well deserved. You gotta do your photo. Congratulations. Congratulations. And the family. Gotta get the cute baby.
In City of Retreat, where they had that was everyone's. That was really
Council's behind. What a cutie.
Sir, what am I doing? I'm looking at
Well, look at, I know.
it. Let the big shot Marion in there.
Which one's I thinking?
Bateman.
Okay, hold on. We gotta see Ted here.
Just, that's what I was saying. I got no chance back.
You gotta find a place. Find an opening.
The cheerleader. Yeah. What is it? It's different. I'm not sure.
That's how we feel too.
Wasn't that cute? Congrats. Yeah.
Congratulations.
That's cool.
We get out of this one. We'll get out of this
Oh, yeah. No.
one.
You
You
can
have the
use
city of Loveland in your back. Nice.
I didn't touch those.
Congratulations, Lieutenant.
Sir.
I'm going to touch those.
All right, let's see here. We don't have anyone for open forum. Does anybody have any changes or additions to the minutes?
I make a motion to.
I actually do
Oh, I'm sorry.
have one. So it's the last sentence or the last paragraph on page 6, where there's a sentence that says Mayor Bailey stated that she speaks to Mr. Rolfs and other East Loveland residents daily. I actually do not. What I said was
Mr. Kennedy.
Mr. Kennedy. So maybe just make that change. So do we need a motion to make that change, Mr. Braun?
Or we can just approve them as amended.
Okay. So is there any other changes? All right. So if we can have a motion to approve them as amended.
Motion to approve as amended.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Goodyear?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right. Next is a public hearing. So we need to have a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll move to open the public hearing on Tefra Fire Station 63 USDA funding.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Goodyear?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
There was no one that signed up. Can we have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Goodyear?
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, we have a series of second readings on ordinances. We discussed these last time. Does anybody have any further comment or questions regarding these ordinances? If not, we'll just take them one by one. Go ahead, Mrs. Clark.
Ordinance assessing lighting, maintenance, and operation costs associated with the Brandywine on the Little Miami subdivision located in Warren County, Ohio.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Goodyear?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Ordinance 53 is adopted by a vote of 7-0. Ordinance assessing lighting, maintenance, and operation costs associated with the Hermitage Point subdivision located in Warren County, Ohio.
Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey? Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Goodyear?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Ordinance 54 is adopted by a vote of 7-0. Ordinance assessing lighting, maintenance, and operation costs associated with the sanctuary at Miami Trails located in Claremont County, Ohio. Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Goodyear?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Ordinance 55 is adopted by a vote of 7-0. Ordinance assessing lighting, maintenance, and operation costs associated with the White Pillars Phase 1 subdivision located in Claremont. Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Goodyear?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Ordinance 56 is adopted by a vote of 7-0. Ordinance assessing lighting, maintenance, and operation costs associated with the White Pillars Phase 2B subdivision in Claremont County, Ohio. Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Goodyear?
Yes.
Mr. Hart? Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Ordinance 57 is adopted by a vote of 7-0. Ordinance assessing lighting, maintenance, and operation costs associated with the White Pillars Phase 3 subdivision located in Claremont County, Ohio. Mr. Goodyear?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Ori?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps?
Yes.
Mr. Ping?
Yes.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Ordinance 58 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Kennedy.
So tonight, yeah. Well, if you, Brenda, do you mind going to the podium just if you have any questions? So I want to help with what we're doing tonight, which is obviously a big process. I asked Brenda Weimer. She's with Dinsmore Shoal. She's our bond counsel. She hands all of the city's financing and bonds, and not only us, cities all over. She is beyond. She knows this stuff backwards and forwards. So I'm going to try to give an overview, and when you have any more technical questions about the financing, the bond ordinance, Brenda can fill in, of course, and I will touch on as best I can operational issues, operational improvements with the new station, and Chief Huber is here to help answer any of those questions. So they'll be here. So I just want to give a sort of a real quick overview on what we're doing tonight, and on the upper level, I just needed to point out that if you think about it, this fire station is very similar to what the city did with the new public works building and improvements to the safety center. These are direct improvements the city made that improve the services to our residents. And that is the commitment. And if you think about what has been done over the last roughly 4 years, and how the city has made the efforts, taking care of their equipment, and all that we've done with those three projects. This falls right in line with that. I also think it's really important that we recognize a very important factor with all of this is that this whole process and being able to be in a point where we can assume this financial responsibilities without the impact on fire funds or the overall impact on the city is really keyed up by two actions the city council took. And this is sort of how these things work. One of them is the fire truck, and Councilman Blair was on council at the time. When city council chose to utilize the remaining COVID relief funds towards the purchase of a fire truck, as you know today, are upwards over $1 million. That action there, and then the action where city council recognized they had exhausted all grant applications that they were able to get for the new parking lot, and rather than build the parking garage, built what they could afford based upon what they had in hand, rather than taking on the debt for a parking garage, knowing that this was coming. That basically, to use a golf term, sort of teed all of this up and put us in a position where we can do this and maintain all operations and so on and so forth. So I don't want to bug everybody, but this was a 4-year process. 4 years ago in June, City Council appointed a fire station relocation committee. They were charged with looking at all available sites, and it wasn't just in downtown. If you recall, at the time, there was a possibility that the school might be buying the Grail property. And we were actually exploring the possibility that there would be a substation up there. But when it all came down to it, the committee came back, narrowed it down to two options, and recommended 220 East Loveland, the former Masonic building. Two key items with that is, three, it's a flat site. It's not in the floodplain like the other option they were looking at. And I can't say enough about the ability to have a piece of property that fronts two streets. That pull-through of impact is significant on how they'll be able to return and be able to pull straight through. And City Council is actually making improvements to O'Bannon soon to help accentuate that pull-through. So that is a big, big part of it. So the whole question of why a new station, it really comes down to building code violations, and operational codes. Remember, building code operations such as not having a generator, having stairways that aren't ADD, having kitchens and other things that aren't ADD, not having the required generator or storm shelter that is required for primary buildings, they all go out the window as far as being grandfathered as soon as you touch the building. That's life. You're grandfathered until that certain point. And then there's the operational issues. The apparatus bays and doors are simply way too narrow. Vehicles must back in after returns. 50% of the turnout, it's a picture that was included in that, 50% of their turnout gear, equipment that should be out, not next to fumes from a vehicle, not in UV lights, but sitting or hanging in the middle of the bays right next to the trucks. They're not able to, with the limited space, have the decontamination room, have the EMS storage, and all the other items that they need. The proximity of that property, if you've ever seen them pull out during a hectic time, you can see how traffic flow impacts what they do. And even things as little as the depth of the front apron. They can't pull the vehicles out to maintain the trucks. Everything basically has to be done. There's not enough room at only 12 feet depth to even pull trucks out onto an apron, which is very common. So when you look at the old station versus the new station, and just from a number station, the current station was built in 76, was expanded in 2002 to its current size of 6,962 square feet. Bays are only 13 foot wide. Bay doors are only 11 foot wide by 12 foot tall. To widen the doors, we would have lost one of the bays. There's no way to widen it and without reducing. So to widen the doors, we actually would have went into only having two bays. The maximum number of apparatus that station can ever hold is 3. When you look at the new station, 2 of the 3 bays are pull-in, which capitalizes on what we just talked about. The bays are 18 feet by 71 feet deep. The bay doors are 14 feet by 14 feet. Has all the necessary storage, so everything can be kept in independent contamination, EMS storage, everything. And then and also, which is important, and I think that factors in, and maybe that's why I propped that up there. That when it came to the design of this building, they were looking for what would possibly be the niche, and one of that was to tie into one of the elements that was in the old city hall, which ironically was where the current station is, and that was the design. So, and it's sort of a neat aspect because you certainly can have historic guidelines, standards, and make people jump through all the hoops if you aren't willing to build your building to that level. So when we talk about the funding, when we first started looking at this, while the design team was working hard to put together how the rooms should be, what kind of tile we should have, and Chief Huber was sort of steering and working with everybody on what we needed to do. We were working on the funding, and I'll be honest with you, there really grant funding for emergency services is just very uncommon outside of the extremely rural areas of the city, of the states, and actually in the country. We really weren't going to ever be in line for any real grant funding for a process like this. So we focused on the USDA funding, which we were really fortunate to get, quite frankly. I remember talking to Brenda about this. It was, I think our timing was sort of good when we approached them. So, and I'm not going to go into deep dive on all of this because to have someone like Brenda here, it would certainly be able to answer it. We were approved for USDA funding at a fixed rate of 3.5 up to 30-year term. Loan principal can be paid down with no penalty, which is important because one of the aspects of this project that makes it so interesting for the city is while the fire fund will take care of the loan payments, you can't deny the fact that repurposing a commercial building, which has been meticulously maintained, a new roof was put on it 2.5 years ago. That is in the middle of one of the most thriving downtown business districts. We know what the benefit will be in terms of new jobs, real estate taxes, and income tax, which benefits the general fund. It's not like we're replacing the fire station and bulldozing the old one, because it is in such prime condition and will be highly sought after. So the loan, and Brenda can go into detail. When you see the number, there is a not to exceed number, and while that is much more than the city will need to complete this project from a construction standpoint and from a standpoint of construction supervision, USDA is very clear. They never make that number higher. And some communities would choose to reimburse themselves. There's quite a range of items which the city could go back and reimburse themselves through this loan. That's not what the city wants to do. We want the USDA loan to fund the construction of the station and the construction supervision moving forward. We're not saying, well, we got 3.5%, let's throw a bunch of other stuff in there and move forward from that. That's not what we're trying to do. We're trying to move from that standpoint on. Although that at this point in time, I can honestly say that, and I'll say this openly, if we hadn't gone through the USDA program, we would obviously be paying a higher interest rate, but in turn we'd probably be under roof. But one of the benefits that was pointed out to me by a contractor who built the city's public works building was one of the benefits during this period of time while we were maneuvering through the USDA process, which to no fault of their own was delayed considerably as they waited for the federal budget to be passed. The market from the commercial construction market, the construction market has improved greatly. It was commented to me, the bottom is opening up. So, and he said, I would anticipate when you're all sitting in your council chambers opening bids like we do in this room, it should be full of people. Nothing is better for a project like this that you want to control cost on, to see this room full of people bidding on this project. And that's really to the benefit of the city. And I think this will be a hot project. And I think that not to exceed number, that scared me for a long time. And talking it through Brenda, the key with this, and this is about what I want to wrap it up with, is that the city can simply choose the option to say, we'll just take the whole 8.3. Hey, when it's all done, we didn't use 2.2, take it from the back. Well, starts from year 30 and year 29. It works up until all those funds are exhausted. that's really not for the best benefit of our fire department operations. What would be best for the operations of our fire department is when we have the contract, when we come to city council, it's a flat site. It's not in the floodplain. It has no retaining wall. It has been designed from here and back. The thoughts that there was some crazy change order that's going to come up is just not, it's not reality. So we can then, and I've confirmed this with the USDA, the city can close. We can close on what that number is, plus what we know we need for construction supervision, and then we seal in that number. That then obviously makes life much, much easier for the fire funds to continue with their goal of how long they like every levy to last, and then they add 2 years to it. So that is really, really important that be clarified. I don't want people to be scared by that 8.3. They need to make that number that big for all the reasons I said. So I just want to close that, that, it is important to remember that this station has got a lot of ulterior benefits to the community. I mean, it's designed to last 50 plus years. I can't imagine it could fit more into the design of the neighbors. It will improve fire operations. It has expansion, 3 bays to 6 bays. It will allow everything that fire department does in terms of serving the community. As you recalled in my memo, I wrote that in 1976, when the current station was built, the city had a population of about 7,000. And then if you actually, and Chief Huber could tell you, and I would largely say that the mutual aid area was much, much less too. If you take the city's population as it is today in a thriving district, and then add how the mutual aid district has expanded, it's a pretty considerable number when you look at all of that. So I just want to say that, all in all, I really do think this is an important. And there's one key element, I'm not avoiding it on purpose. And I apologize because I wrote a big note that says, don't forget about debt policy. So in 1997, the city passed a debt policy. And the debt policy in 1997 stated the city, amongst other things, is the city shall not exceed 20 years in any debt. And this particular debt will exceed, and it includes in the bond ordinance legislation authorizing that. Why we're doing that is there are multiple reasons, because we have to look at operations. We have the potential for some significant pay downs coming up, based upon how the city addresses the future sale of the building. But the 3.5% interest loan for the city is 3.5% interest, whether it's a 10%, a 15%, or 20, or a 30. I discussed this with the Finance Commission at their meeting last week, and they understood. But there is language in there, actually added by Brenda, that specifically says that this here does not comply with the debt policy. So that's all I had. Sorry.
All right. Before we get to questions, Chief, did you have anything to add?
Mayor, thank you, and thank Council for having this on the agenda this evening. I did want to publicly thank Mr. Kennedy. The USDA funding, when he talked to me about that, I said, that sounds like a good idea, Dave, and he called me down to his office. And then the application was sitting there, and it was literally this thick. And he has spent incredible amount of time filling out these federal forms, as you can imagine. And it will definitely be a great savings for the city. We were frustrated for a long time with the federal debt and the federal policies, but I want to thank Dave and the council for moving this forward. We're anxious to be able to get our firefighters out of a fire station that exposes them to carcinogens and is not a safe place for them to be long term. So we want to thank council and the mayor and the city manager for putting this forward. Thank you.
All right. Brenda Weimer, who Dave speaks of with hushed tones and great reverence. Is there anything you want to add before council asks some questions?
No, I think Dave has covered everything, and both Dave and Chief have alluded to the USDA process is quite lengthy and voluminous, but the trade-off is the lower interest rate, and that's a fixed rate for the full term of the financing. And should rates fall once you're locked in by USDA, before closing, you actually get advantage of the lower rate, but it cannot increase. So if rates rise after commitment before closing, your rate stays at 3.5. But if it falls between now and when we close, hopefully sometime in September, you would get advantage of the lower rate. So the paperwork is quite a process, but in the end, it is quite a significant savings on the interest cost over the life of the loan.
All right, thank you. Council, any questions or comments? Vice Mayor?
So, Ms. Weimer, this basically is a loan that's secured by bonds.
Correct. USDA's program and their program documents cover the entire country, but the state laws throughout the country are different on how you issue debt. And in Ohio, the political subdivisions can't really enter into just the loan. So, but USDA's program is set up as a loan. So under state law, you issue bonds that then USDA purchases to secure the loan that they're making under their program.
Okay. So we have 30 years in which to pay back the loan, correct?
Correct. It will be amortized over 30 years, but as Dave mentioned, the loan comes with prepayment options. So should the city in the future experience, cash flow positives and want to prepay a portion of the loan, they can do so without penalty.
Okay. And the bonds that the city will issue, will those come due at various times, or is it come due at 30 years out?
No. So under state law, you're not able to do those sorts of term bonds the way that corporate entities issue a bond and nothing is due until the maturity except interest. Under state law, particularly when you're issuing general obligation, you are required to pay it back on an annual basis, and there are actual specific statutes for how your amortization can be structured. And the USDA loans are structured in compliance with the state law, which in this case is essentially level debt service each year. Okay. So looks kind of like our mortgages on our homes where the principal increases each year, but the interest decreases each year. So your total payment is fixed each year.
So there's no nut at the end of 30 years that we have to pay to the bondholder.
Correct. State law does not let you really structure debt that way.
Thank you for answering my questions.
Sure.
Any other questions or comments? Yes, Mr. Payne.
Just a question on the notion of the payback. Mr. Kennedy mentioned this large chunk of money and that then at some point we can return that portion back. It comes off the tail end. But the net effect is going to be exactly the same. It's just the payment is going to be higher as a result of amortizing that larger chunk over 30 years, correct?
Right. So there are two situations. So one is if you went ahead and closed on the maximum amount now and then went through and bid it out and went through construction and had, say, $2 million left, you would, yes, prepay the back end principal amounts, which would not necessarily change your term and your principal, but we'd readjust the interest because you'd no longer be paying interest on that part that you prepaid. So it would slightly readjust your payments. The other option that Dave is suggesting is that we don't close on the loan until we actually open bids so that we can close on the loan in the reduced amount up front and have the amortization structured appropriately on closing day to match up with the expected construction costs based on the actual bids that come in, so that then your loan would be amortized correctly. But if you should, say, sell the old fire station and want to apply those sale proceeds to the loan, then you would start prepaying from the back end up, which would reduce the interest due each year. So it would have some effect on the existing payments.
Okay, and I don't know that this is for you, but just another question is, if there's nothing in the ordinance that would require us to take proceeds from the sale of the firehouse
No.
and put it towards this
No.
if we chose to do something
We-
else.
And actually, I mentioned to the Finance Commission, Mark and I, when we met with them, mentioned if there is a set amount of money, we would want to sit with the Finance Commission and say, wait a second, maybe we need to, in addition to that, look at the training tower or the ambulance and do a deeper dive on it. It could result in a bigger net savings if we go ahead and say, well, maybe it's best because at this interest rate, we go ahead and look at the training tower, or we look at the ambulance, or, they wanted, I think, the opportunity to be involved with the city before and to make a recommendation to council to say, wait, based upon this, for the overall good of the fire funds, we recommend that a portion of it go towards X, or portion of it would all go toward that, but we really need to do a deeper dive on exactly how that could be best served based on what comes in.
And neither the USDA documents or the USDA or the bond documents require you to use any such sale proceeds towards this debt. Now, state law may mandate that you use the sale proceeds from a capital asset for other capital assets rather than for operational. But your current loan documents and bond documents will not require you that you use it for this particular capital asset. So as Dave said, you can discuss at that time, if it happens, depending on how much money it is, what you really want to allocate it to. But it will probably, I'll need to do a little bit more research on the state law, but it usually is required to stay in a capital asset fund as opposed to an operational fund.
Which is
So it wouldn't go into the fire fund.
well, it could be used to pay down fire loans.
Or to buy new assets, buy fire trucks, buy ambulances,
Yeah.
make improvements to other fire stations, but it couldn't necessarily go to pay for services. We'll need to do a little bit more research, but that's typically how the statutes mandate for all local governments the use of proceeds of another asset.
The other question I had was just on the timing of construction. I know Chief Huber and you have both mentioned this process is just, it's gone on a long time, longer than anybody of you wanted it to. With the closing that we're talking about, and the process is going to start proceeding at this point and going through the process. The closing doesn't hold that up at all to wait and decide that later.
So moving forward, so tonight, Chris and Misty and I will get everything packaged and scanned and sent up to the USDA tonight, so Cindy knows we got it, along with what council signed, that legislative sheet. I actually sent that up to her. And then the architect, MSA, Dan Montgomery, he's already met this myriad of criteria for the bid documents. There's some changes with USDA. You need to do the Buy American, Build America program and so on and so forth. But we are looking at a July 29th where the bids will go out, which will be wonderful. So as of tonight, the USDA will know tonight that you took all this action. And at closing, when we all sit down, then we'll have originals and she'll have the final bond document. And then we will be back to council with the contract at hopefully sometime in August. And at that point in time, that'll be the first step. But the key with tonight, and one of the reasons that I think we needed to pass the ordinance as an emergency, is because, quite frankly, we still want to capitalize on the construction season. Why did we rush to get the parking lot done? Because we had to get the trees down before March 31st. So there is sometimes emergency is by the simple fact of the need to move forward with the project. So that's one of the reasons the ordinance portion is handed to council as an ordinance. As an emergency.
Well, and I guess one other question on the construction aspect of it. I think it was 2 or 3 meetings ago, we talked about an approval of additional money for MSA to cover the construction administration aspect of their work. If you hold off on the closing so that you can know the amount of the bids, there still would be potentially that, in terms of change orders or those kinds of things. Is the intent to pump that, to use a little bit extra of that number, to have a little extra in there, to
Yeah.
just get what is bid?
No, we would sit with Dan Montgomery. Based upon the bids, we would put a small percentage on that to cover any change orders. And then we would sort of try to get Dan a hardcore number on what he needs for construction supervision to handle that, and then we would probably give ourselves even a little bit more cushion for that, and then we would go ahead and close. We don't want to be coming back and saying, look, this happened or this happened, and we need to tap into the fire funds because we already closed on the USDA. That will be there will be some discussion on what that number is, but we do feel that the project has been designed to such a level, to specific tile colors, specific everything. It has been so elaborate that we just don't see any crazy thing happening. We did the parking lot knowing we would be doing a change order on the turn lane because we hadn't even designed it yet. We just don't foresee any massive change orders in a project. I would expect us to come in almost exactly like the Public Works building did. We had a bid, we had a product, we did it, and that was what we did. There was no change order on that except some structural items we needed for the solar panels. That was all we ever did.
Right. I guess the only reason I bring it up is
Give ourselves
just
some wiggle.
we spent so much time getting to this low interest rate and having the benefit of that, knowing what happened. I mean, I'm not suggesting there's going to be another pandemic, but knowing what happened in the pandemic with construction costs just skyrocketing and availabilities and all that kind of thing. Sometimes, even with the best planning and the best intentions, there's a shock. And so it would be nice to have that little, maybe more than a little cushion, since it's so easy under this program to give the money back to the loan at the end, and have that come back off. So anyway, that's the reason why I asked the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Mr. Bateman.
I appreciate the education on this process. I think it's really seems quite worth the effort that has been taken to get to this point. And it also sounds to me that what's of particular value is that flexibility with the current Station 63, and the fact that if we were in a different scenario, we might feel a little bit more pressure to offload that or to use that to pay this down if it were at a higher rate or different terms. So I think that's while there's been a lot of work in the preliminary stages, and here we are right at the sort of starting line. I'm sure it's going to be a long journey to get it built, but it does sound like we're going to be in a comfortable position relative to funding and also planning and decision making. So appreciate all the efforts that have gone through, and especially tonight as we get ready to send this off. So thanks for everything.
Mr. Ori?
The 3.5% interest rate, it's locked in once we send the papers in tonight. Is that right?
It's actually locked in already. It got locked in with the federal government's commitment of the loan. I
Okay.
think Dave alluded to we were waiting on the federal budget. We were waiting for them to actually obligate these particular funds for this particular project, and that locked in the interest rate. Now, should we decide not to go forward with this project and we don't close within the prescribed period of time, they will re-obligate those to another project and our interest rate will go. But as long as we close within 12 months, that rate is locked in.
That was the next question, is how long do we have in that commitment? And then,
But we aren't going to take that long.
this gentleman would be upset, I think.
Yeah.
But so once we did get the construction bids, if they come in less, that doesn't affect the rate at all. So, okay.
Any further comment or question? Good here?
I just want to say that, looking through all the documentation, listening to the presentation this evening, discussions we've had, this is obviously a large project and very necessary project. And I just want to commend Mr. Kennedy and the city staff for the fact that it's very clear that all along the process, the number one thought was how to do this in the most fiscally responsible manner and do it in a way that doesn't in any way jeopardize the city's finances. And so obviously it's been, as everybody said, it's been a long process and difficult, but I do appreciate the fact that, even though this is a government project, the focus has been on doing something that's the most responsible for the citizens of the city. And I just want to commend everyone for that.
Any further comment? I would just echo what the Chief said, that I know how much time Dave has spent on this particular I've heard USDA often in the last year or so or more. And so well done on all the time you spent on that. And Chief, thanks for your patience and the patience of your staff, because this has taken a while, but it'll be worth it in the end. All right, and thank you very much, Brenda, for being here and answering our questions. We appreciate it.
Always happy to be here.
Welcome to stay, but you don't have to stand there.
I like to stay and actually hear the vote.
All right. Sounds good. All right. Yes, please.
I did want to point out for council that the form of the resolution is slightly different than what you're used to. The USDA, one of the things that in this process, from the very first phone call that Brenda, myself, and Dave and others were on, they like us to use their forms and do things their way. So when you look at the loan resolution, you're going to notice that it's in a slightly different form. When you then go to agenda item 13A.
No, it's 12B.
Right, but when you go to 13, you're going to see another ordinance. That is in our normal form because we were able to authorize that using our new form. I did want to point out for the clerk, I noticed that the title that's on page 56 is slightly different than it is on the agenda. So when you read it by title only, I would appreciate if you would read the title as it appears on page 56. I know that it's a little cumbersome and slightly different, but it was pointed out to me by the vice mayor, and he's correct. We should read the title that's on the legislation.
You're so smart.
Just wanted to point that out. It's just slightly worded differently. You got that?
656. So yours ends with fire station facility. You just need to finish the rest of it to serve an area. You see that? That's all.
Yeah.
All right.
You
We
can
ready
just-
to read the resolution?
Yeah.
All right. Go ahead.
A resolution of the City Council of the City of Loveland authorizing and providing for the incurrence of indebtedness for the purpose of providing a portion of the cost of acquiring, constructing, enlarging, improving, and/or extending its construction of fire station facility to serve an area lawfully within its jurisdiction to serve.
Thank you. All right. Call the roll.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Mr. Ori.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Ping.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Mr. Goodyear.
Yes.
Resolution 59 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
And there's nothing else we need to discuss
Nope.
regarding the ordinance. Okay. Other than it is a first reading, but it isn't. We're declaring an emergency. Go ahead and read the ordinance.
Ordinance providing for the issuance of not to exceed $8,307,000 of bonds by the City of Loveland, Ohio, for the purpose of constructing a fire station in the City of Loveland, Ohio, declaring an emergency.
Any comment on the ordinance? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ori.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Ping.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Bateman.
Yes.
Mr. Goodyear.
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Ordinance 60 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
All right. Well, that's exciting. A little
Yeah.
scary. Big money.
Yeah, it is.
But all right. So the next ordinance. Do we need to talk? No, we don't need to talk about it, do we? Go ahead
Not
and talk
really.
about
So originally, this is for our utility
That's-
ordinances. Originally, there was going to be one for Hamilton and for Claremont. The one for Claremont was paid before, so we are only asking that the ordinance for Hamilton County be approved.
it. And can we just skip over the second one,
Yes,
Mr. Braun?
we can
Okay.
disregard it.
All right. Go ahead and read the ordinance.
Ordinance assessing liens for unpaid utility bills on property in Hamilton County owed to the City of Loveland and declaring an emergency.
Call the roll, please.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Mr. Ping.
Yes.
Mayor Bailey.
Yes.
Mr. Bateman. Mr. Goodyear.
Yes.
Mr. Hart.
Yes.
Mr. Ori.
Yes.
Ordinance 61 is adopted by a vote of 7-0.
Mr. Medler.
Thank you, Mayor. Before you is the second quarter report for 2024. Just to go over some of the higher points, and then I can answer any questions if you might have any. So general fund revenues and expenditures are down compared to 2023. That's mostly because of the brownfield remediation program that happened in 2023. Involved a lot of expenses, but then also reimbursement funds coming in. For investments, Star Ohio's interest rate is pretty much what we look at to see how things are going. For a while after the pandemic, things were very, very low, but then things jumped up pretty significantly. So the gap now is beginning to narrow. In June 2024, Star Ohio rate was 5.44%, which is less than 5.48% in August 2023. So that means that when we get to August, our rates that we have for Star Ohio are going to be less than the year before, which is something we haven't had in a while. We'll probably still be bringing in more money just because we have a higher balance, but the rate itself will be lower than that. Income tax revenue is continuing to trend down, as we've talked about in the past. So through June, the city is 3.76% behind last year's pace. We've already been looking at ways to make some savings. Police department has some vacancies that are going to be maintained throughout the end of the year. We had some capital projects that aren't going to be happening this year. We're going to see some savings there. Also made some additional savings from the Loveland City school payment that we didn't have to have quite as much this year with them. So looking to make some savings, and I think by the time we get to the end of the year, we definitely have to have a balanced budget by state law, but we're looking to have revenues and expenditures be balanced.
Okay. Anybody have any comments or questions? I do think we need a motion to accept the 2024 quarterly update, second quarter update, correct?
I'll move to approve the second quarter 2024 financial update.
Your second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mr. Ping,
Yes.
Mayor Bailey,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Goodyear,
Yes.
Mr. Hart,
Yes.
Mr. Rory,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Phelps.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
All right, do you have anything further on the income tax?
Nothing further.
Okay. All right, I think that's it. Other than city council reports, does anyone have anything to report? All right, I have a few.
Sorry, I'll just mention.
Yes, Mr. Bateman.
Just wanted to give another update on the East Loveland construction project. Since the roads have been light, it's gone much smoother, I think, than I expected. So I appreciate that. I know that there's some dust control being done, which I've noticed. So all things are going well there. So thanks for your efforts.
If I can just add one thing, because I don't think he gets enough credit, even though that's been a very difficult project, I can't say enough for the efforts of Scott Wisby, our public works director. He is up there multiple times a day. He was actually the one that came up with the idea of loaning our water truck, and that has made a major impact on the dust. He's worked with them to make sure that road was ready, and Scott was able to be the one to flip the switch on that Sunday. Thought it'd be a good idea to let people get used to it on a Sunday, and he's done a very good job of making a difficult project not be a heck of a lot worse. And when he started doing that water control, the calls went. And I really thank Scott a lot for that. He's done a great job on that project.
Yes, Vice Mayor.
In addition to that project that Mr. Bateman mentioned, I would just note, and if the city manager wants to comment on the status of the bridge and the parking lot.
So the West Loveland Bridge project, Chris and I we keep an eye on all the schedules. They will be moving in early August to the middle, and that is the briefest period of time that they'll be is in the middle when they fix the joints. And Chris and Scott are working with them to do a little bit of sidewalk repair in the areas that weren't included in the boundaries up by Shooty Cleaners. And otherwise, when the traffic lane switched, that made a big difference. Chris, do you have anything else on that West Loveland Bridge project?
No, that's basically where we're at with it. I think it's the lane switch or the middle, when they go to the middle, it's going to be closer to mid-August. But that should be a very short period of time. And then you'll start to see, one of the other things we're waiting on is Duke to come in with their lighting. So we'll be seeing that shortly too.
Yeah. If you remember, the city's contribution on this project is the railing, and the replacement of the lighting. That's a really big improvement in that the city did that. So an update on the parking lot. The lights are in. that was a big holdup. You can't put on the surface course blacktop. Today they finished, and I know I hate to use the word again, but today they finished the entry on 48 so you can see the kneecap. The kneecap is clearly defined now, creating the center turn lane. It is open on weekends, and Chris will do it because I'm leaving town. Every Friday, they'll tell us if it's both entrances or one of the entrance, and then Chris sends it out to everybody, and I know they appreciate it, how that comes in. The sidewalk and the bollards behind the rail car will be going in, and what is the nice part is the landscaping is really going to be something special, and the concrete that will go in up to the apron of the dumpster corral. Chris and I are working with all the downtown businesses to consolidate all the dumpsters in that area, and then they'll be paying the city a portion of that bill. There should be 2 full dumpsters, 1 recycling dumpster, and 1 grease trap that we're trying to get people to consolidate, largely like the Works and Paxton's. So all of that will be gone. And then as soon as that project is completely finished with no restrictions on parking, then full-fledged on the next phase, which is ripping and redoing everything outside of City Hall. That's the next phase. That's a big project. So
Got me excited. More construction.
Any other comments? I don't know if you all noticed, but we have new ceiling tiles. I think that's is that the final the final step of redoing this room, so it looks very
redoing all city.
Dark one.
All right, I do have a few announcements. The grand opening of the Loveland Sims Fire Department Health and Wellness Center will be held tomorrow, actually, at 6:30 p.m. The center is located at 227 East Loveland Avenue. We'll focus entirely on the physical and behavioral mental health of our firefighters and paramedics. Do you have anything to add?
No, our police officers are involved in that as well.
Okay.
Yeah, we were able to include them in the federal grant. So I think the captain went through it today, and we've seen several of our police officers up there going through. So it's
Good.
exciting to be able to provide those services for our firefighters. And it was able to, as had mentioned earlier, it was all paid for by a federal grant and a state grant. So it was great to have. So thank you. We hope to see council people right there.
I'll be there.
Yeah.
So that's 6:30. Or start at 6 or 6:30?
5:30 if you want to see some of the action going on. It's pretty interesting to watch some of the testing going on. Very in-depth.
6:30. Okay. Very good. Okay. The next concert in the park will be held on Sunday, August 4th. We'll feature the Jump and Jive Big Band. That's 6 o'clock at Nisbet. The Loveland Police Department, Hamilton Township Police Department, and Hamilton Township Fire and Rescue will join together on August 6th from 6 to 9 at Odors Lake in Morrow for the 41st National Night Out, which is a nationwide campaign that promotes police-community partnerships. The event is free to the public and includes family activities. Applications are currently being accepted for the Loveland Citizens Police Academy. That academy runs from September 4th through November 13th. The program is free and open to Loveland residents at least 18 years old. Applications are available on the city's website. Mr. Blair and I did that together a few years ago. Oh, Mr. Oria, we all did it together, along with you.
Yeah.
That was quite a class. That stellar. The Chamber's third annual Health and Wellness Expo will be held on July 27th at Nisbet Park from 9 to noon. That event is free, brings in mental, physical, and financial health professionals to communicate the benefits of living a balanced lifestyle. And the inaugural Loveland Shorts Film Festival will be held August 2nd through 4th at the Loveland Stage Company. The festival will feature short film screenings and workshops. Tickets are available at www.lovelandfilmfest.org. This is sort of a interesting event that's happening. So if you have a chance to go to that, I would suggest doing so. I think that's all I've got. We have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Mayor Bailey?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman? Mr. Goodyear?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
Yes.
Mr. Corey?
Yes.
Mr. Phelps?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion carries 7-0.
Data.
Hmm?
Data.